March 9, 1945, 11:57 p.m. Tokyo, Japan. The air raid sirens have been silent for weeks. The people of the Shitaya and Asakusa wards have grown almost comfortable with the distant silver specks that drift across the moon at 30,000 feet, too high for guns, too high for fighters. They call the American bombers B-san, Mr. B, with the same weary affection they once reserved for typhoons. Untouchable, annoying, survivable. Tonight, the sirens stay quiet. Low over the blacked-out city, 334 B-29 Superfortresses drop out of the jet stream like falling stars. Their bellies are already open. No high-explosive bombs tonight, only incendiaries, M69s, 6-pound canisters filled with napalm that burst apart in mid-air and scatter burning jelly in every direction. You are standing on the roof of a wooden machiya in Honjo Ward. The temperature is just above freezing. Your breath fogs. Then, the first Pathfinder flares drift down. Magnesium Christmas trees hanging in the dark, turning night into noon. Shadows leap across paper shoji screens a mile away. At 12:08 a.m., the first wave hits. A sound like 1,000 express trains arrives all at once. The sky fills with a roar that rattles teeth in their sockets. Then, the bombs begin to fall in perfect overlapping patterns, cluster after cluster. The M69s scream down, hit rooftops, punch through tiles, and bloom into white-hot flowers that spit burning gel in 360-degree arcs. Wood that has stood since the Edo period ignites as if it had been waiting centuries for this exact moment. Within minutes, individual fires become one continuous fire. You watch a mother sprint across Ryogoku Bridge, clutching 2 small children. Her kimono sleeves catch first, a sudden orange wing, then the rest of her. She keeps running for 3 more steps before the heat folds her to the ground. The children vanish behind a wall of flame that races up the street faster than any human being can move. By 12:30, the temperature on the ground in some places exceeds 1,800 degrees Fahrenheit. Canal water boils, asphalt bubbles, iron bridge girders glow dull red. People who leap into the Sumida River find the surface already on fire from burning oil and debris. And still the bombers come. Wave after wave, engines droning in perfect formation, silhouetted against their own inferno. The pilots fly so low, 5,000 to 7,000 feet, that some crews later swear they could see individual faces looking up from the streets. Up in the cockpits, waist gunners peer down through breaks in the smoke and see a sight no one in the 20th century has ever witnessed: a city-sized funeral pyre. Tokyo is no longer a city, it is a furnace. At Imperial Japanese Army headquarters in Ichigaya, staff officers crowd around a large wall map. Red pins mark known B-29 bases on Saipan, Tinian, Guam. A lieutenant colonel laughs nervously. "They're wasting fuel," he says. "Low altitude? Our anti-aircraft guns will tear them apart." No one answers. The telephone lines to the city's air defense posts have already gone dead. Corona AM, the firestorm generates its own wind. Superheated air rises so fast that 100-mile-an-hour gusts scream inward from every direction, feeding the monster. People caught in the open are sucked off their feet, and hurled bodily into the flames. Firefighters give up trying to fight it. They run for their lives like everyone else. At 2:37 a.m., the last B-29 turns for home. Behind it, 16 square miles of Tokyo, 1/4 of the entire city, glows white-hot. The smoke column climbs 40,000 feet and is visible to sailors 200 miles out at sea. More than 100,000 human beings will be dead before sunrise. Most will never be identified. Many simply cease to exist, reduced to ash lighter than the paper walls they once called home. And somewhere, high above the Pacific, a young tail gunner named Robert H. Johnson stares back at the burning horizon until it drops below the curve of the Earth. He writes in his diary that night, "We have just invented hell, and we are very good at it." But this night did not begin on March 9th. It began years earlier, with laughter in smoky Tokyo briefing rooms, when Japanese generals first saw photographs of the enormous new American bomber they were certain would never reach them. December 1941. Imperial Japanese Army Air Force Headquarters, Tokyo. A grainy reconnaissance photograph is passed hand to hand around the long teak table. It shows a monstrous 4-engine bomber dwarfing the P-51s parked beside it on a Kansas airfield. Wingspan, 141 feet. Empty weight, 74,000 pounds. Range, rumored to be over 5,000 miles. The Americans are calling it the B-29 Superfortress. Colonel Takeo Yasuda, one of the rising stars of the Army Air Arm, snorts so loudly his tea nearly comes out his nose. "Look at the size of this thing," he says, tapping the photo with a cigarette holder. "It's a flying barn. Our Ki-45s will eat it alive." Laughter ripples down the table. Someone makes a crude joke about the bomber needing its own prefecture to turn around in. Another officer sketches a quick cartoon on the corner of a briefing folder. A B-29 with a bullseye painted on its belly and the caption, "Please shoot here." Even the normally reserved General Hideki Tojo cracks a thin smile when the drawing is slid across to him. The consensus is unanimous and instant. The B-29 is a desperation weapon. Too big, too complex, too fragile. American industry may be able to churn out thousands of the things, but they will never operate effectively over Japan. The distances are too great, the jet stream winds over Honshu too fierce, the Japanese fighter arm too skilled. Besides, everyone knows the real war will be decided long before these silver monsters can matter. Singapore has already fallen. The Philippines are crumbling. By the time the first B-29 rolls off the assembly line, the Greater East Asia Co-Prosperity Sphere will stretch from Burma to Wake Island, and the Americans will be negotiating for peace. The laughter is still echoing in those briefing rooms 2 years later, when the first captured B-29 technical manuals reached Tokyo via neutral Sweden. Japanese engineers pore over the blueprints in stunned silence. Pressurized crew compartments, remote-controlled gun turrets slaved to analog computers, engines that can maintain power at 35,000 feet, a bomb load that exceeds the entire annual production of some Japanese aircraft factories. The laughter becomes quieter, but it does not stop. Magnesium-24, 1944. 32,000 feet above Tokyo. The first operational B-29 mission against the home islands. Captain Robert K. Morgan, Yes, the same Morgan who flew the Memphis Belle over Germany, leads the 73rd Bomb Wing in a high-altitude precision raid on the Musashino aircraft plant. From the ground, the bombers look like gnats crawling across a cathedral ceiling. Japanese fighters claw upward, but stall out at 28,000 feet, engines starving for air. Anti-aircraft shells burst thousands of feet below the formations, black cotton balls in a pale blue sky. The results are pathetic. Only a handful of bombs hit anywhere near the target. Most are scattered across rice paddies and residential neighborhoods by 200-mile-an-hour jet stream winds the Americans hadn't even known existed. Back in Tokyo that evening, the Imperial General Staff issues a triumphant communiqué. Enemy terror bombers repulsed with negligible damage. The so-called Superfortress proves impotent against the defenses of the Empire. In officers' clubs from Taipei to Truk, sake cups are raised to the invincible Zero and the unbreakable spirit of Bushido. General Curtis LeMay, newly arrived on Guam to take command of the 21st Bomber Command, reads the Japanese communiqué and crushes the flimsy sheet in his fist. He is already chewing on the stub of an unlit cigar the size of a howitzer shell. LeMay is 38 years old, built like a heavyweight boxer, and speaks in short, flat sentences that sound like punches. He has no patience for high-altitude nonsense. The Norden bomb site is useless in the jet stream. The B-29's fancy turbo superchargers are breaking down faster than mechanics can fix them. Crews are freezing at 30,000 feet, and, worst of all, the bombs simply are not hurting Japan enough. He summons his staff to a Quonset hut that smells of kerosene and wet canvas. "We're doing this all wrong," he says. "From now on, we go in low. Strip the guns, strip the gunners, fill the bomb bays with fire." Lieutenant Colonel dares to protest. "Sir, at low altitude, the flak will slaughter us." LeMay fixes him with a stare that could freeze sake. "Then we go in at night," he says. "When their radar can't see us and their fighters can't find us. And we burn the bastards out, city by city, until they haven't got a house left to hide in." In Tokyo, the laughter is about to catch in their throats. February 4th, 1945. Headquarters, 21st Bomber Command. A corrugated iron hut on Guam, lit by a single green-shaded lamp. Curtis LeMay sits alone at a steel desk, shirt sleeves rolled high, cigar smoke curling around the map of Japan, spread out in front of him like a death warrant. He has not slept in 36 hours. On the wall behind him, a black and white reconnaissance mosaic of Tokyo. Densely packed wooden roofs, paper-walled houses, narrow alleys no wider than a man's outstretched arms. Flammable. All of it. More flammable than anything the human race has ever built in one place. LeMay traces a grease pencil circle around the working-class eastern wards. Asakusa, Honjo, Fukagawa, Shitaya. 16 square miles, home to more than 1 million people. Mostly small factories, cottage workshops, and the families that run them. The beating heart of Japan's war production, hidden inside its own civilian population. He knows what high explosives do to steel and concrete. He also knows what fire does to wood and paper. A knock. Major General Haywood Hansell, the man LeMay just replaced, steps in to hand over the final turnover papers. Hansell still believes in precision bombing, in daylight raids, in the moral clarity of hitting only factories. His eyes are red. He has been relieved for failure. LeMay signs without looking up. Hailed Hansel hesitates. Curtis, if you do this thing you're planning, they'll call you a barbarian. History will call you a barbarian. LeMay finally meets his gaze. Then history can kiss my ass, he says. My job is to end this war before another American boy gets his legs blown off on some stinking island. If burning their cities does it faster, I'll burn every one of them. Hansel leaves without another word. That night, LeMay cables Washington a terse request. Permission to conduct area incendiary missions at night from minimum altitude. The reply from Hap Arnold comes back in less than 6 hours. Approved. Get results. March 4th, 1945. Northfield, Tinian. 334 B-29s are stripped bare. Machine guns yanked out to save weight. Ammunition dumped. Gunners sent to the rear. Every ounce of saved weight is replaced with bombs. 1,000 tons of M69 napalm clusters. 500 tons of white phosphorus Molotov flower baskets. 300 tons of 500-pound magnesium thermite bombs. The crews call it Operation Meeting House, but privately they have already nicknamed the mission the Big Barbecue. At the pre-mission briefing, LeMay walks to the front of the room, chewing that eternal cigar. No notes, no theatrics. Clang target for tonight, he says, is Tokyo. We're going in at between 5,000 and 7,000 feet. You will not, repeat, not, attempt to evade flak. You will fly straight and level so the bombardiers can lay these things down in a nice, tight grid. Any airplane that aborts will be met on the runway by me personally, and I will bust the pilot to private and put him on latrine duty for the rest of the war. Are there any questions? There are none. One young pilot, Lieutenant James M. Parker from Oklahoma, raises a trembling hand anyway. Sir, how many people do you think are down there? LeMay looks at him for a long moment. More than you can count, son, he says quietly. A whole hell of a lot more than you can count. Setbacks, the first B-29 lifts off into a Pacific sunset, the color of fresh blood. Far to the north, in the Imperial Palace, Emperor Hirohito takes his evening walk in the Fukiyage Garden. The cherry trees are bare. Somewhere beyond the moat, the city lights blink out one by one as the blackout begins. The Emperor pauses beneath a lantern and asks his aide, "Do you think the Americans will come again tonight?" Phi Dai bows. "Our fighters are ready, Majesty. The B-29 is a cowardly bird. It only comes when it thinks it is safe." Hirohito nods, but his eyes linger on the dark sky to the east. High above Iwo Jima, now in American hands for just 2 weeks, the Armada forms up. Navigation lights wink off. The only illumination left is the faint blue exhaust flames of 1,336 Wright Cyclone engines glowing like demon eyes in the night. They are coming in low. Radar operators on the Japanese coast will not see them until it is far too late. In the lead plane, a pathfinder named Major Robert E. Kopf checks his watch. T-minus 30 minutes to the most destructive single air raid in human history. And somewhere below, in a tiny wooden house in Honjo Ward, a 6-year-old girl named Michiko is being tucked into her futon by her mother. The girl asks why the sirens have not sounded tonight. Her mother kisses her forehead. "Because the war is almost over, little one. Sleep now." The first flare ship is already over downtown Tokyo. 07 a.m., March 10th, 1945. Above the Sumida River Delta, Major Robert E. Koff's B-29, Lucky Leven, rolls out of its turn and steadies on 270 degrees. The bombardier, Captain Raymond Deacon Jones, peers through the Norden sight. Below him, Tokyo is a black velvet cloth dotted with the last few dim street lamps still burning in defiance of the blackout. Jones flips the salvo switch. From the belly of Lucky Leven, 38 M47 incendiary bombs tumble out, each one a 100-pound phosphorus canister designed to burst at 2,000 feet and seed the sky with flaming white wedges. They ignite in mid-air like magnesium suns. For the first time in 1,000 years, the night over the Japanese capital becomes brighter than noon. Penalties. On the ground, air raid wardens see the sudden daylight and freeze in confusion. No sirens, no engines heard yet, just this impossible white glare. Then, the second wave of Pathfinders arrives, forming a perfect flaming X over the target zone, the exact center of the Honjo and Asakusa wards. The X marks the spot. At 0012, the main force crosses the coast at 7,000 feet. Crews can already smell the city through their open bomb bays. Soy sauce, cedar, coal smoke, humanity. One by one, the superfortresses open their doors. No more pinpoint drops. Tonight, they are farmers sowing dragon's teeth. You are inside the bomb bay of Straight Flush, piloted by Captain Robert E. Lewis. The plane shudders as 7 tons of M69 clusters release in a single metallic cough. Through the open doors, you see the clusters separate, hundreds of 6-pound canisters spinning lazily, fins popping open like black flowers. They disappear into the glowing X below. 20 seconds later, the first canisters hit. Each M69 is filled with napalm thickened with jellied gasoline and wrapped in cheesecloth. On impact, a white phosphorus charge bursts the canister and flings burning gel in a 100-foot radius. One cluster of 40 bombs can ignite an entire city block. Tonight, over 1,600 tons of them are falling. On Kamejima Street, an elderly carpenter named Saburo opens his front door to see what the strange light is. A single M69 punches straight through his roof and explodes in his living room. The cheesecloth wicks catch on the tatami mats. In 3 seconds, the entire house is burning from the inside out. Saburo makes it to the street before the walls collapse. He is barefoot. His feet blister on the hot pavement. By 0:25, the fires are linking up faster than anyone thought possible. Separate blazes become blocks. Blocks become districts. The heat creates its own weather. At 0037, the firestorm is born. Superheated air rises so violently that oxygen is sucked in from every direction at hurricane force. Winds measured later at 70 to 100 miles per hour race down alleys, flattening people against walls, ripping wooden clogs from their feet. Paper screens, laundry, Entire roof tiles are torn loose and flung into the furnace. In the Sumida River, hundreds dive for safety. The water is cold, but the surface is already slick with burning oil. Bodies float face down, hair on fire. A firefighter crew from Engine Company 7 tries to reach a hydrant near Kiyosumi Bridge. The hose is still in their hands when the wind picks the entire 6-ton truck up and slams it sideways into a burning warehouse. No one gets out. Franklin, at 0051, the temperature in the open street reaches 1,000 degrees Celsius. Asphalt softens like toffee. Telephone poles burst into flame from the bottom up. Iron manhole covers glow cherry red. Crimson Tsuneo Watanabe, a Ki-84 fighter pilot scrambled from Chofu Airfield, finally gets airborne. He climbs through the smoke, eyes watering, and breaks into clear air at 8,000 feet. Below him, Tokyo is gone. There is only a lake of fire, its surface crawling with orange waves. He circles once, uselessly, then turns for home, weeping behind his goggles. In the cockpit of Boxcar, yes, the same plane that will later carry the atomic bomb to Nagasaki, Bombardier Kermit Behan looks down and whispers into the intercom, "Jesus Christ, we're killing a city." Captain Charles "Chuck" Sweeney, the aircraft commander, does not answer. He simply banks the plane toward the rally point, the glow of Tokyo painting the inside of the cockpit blood red. By 0130, the fire has its own heartbeat. It pulses, it breathes, it roars louder than the departing bombers. A young mother named Shizuko, carrying her infant son on her back, reaches the iron Kototoi Bridge. The bridge is jammed with refugees. The metal deck plates are already too hot to touch. Shizuko steps over bodies that have cooked where they fell. Halfway across, the wind shifts. A wall of flame rolls up the riverbank behind her. She clutches her baby tighter and jumps. Reddest they hit the water 30 feet below. The river is on fire, but the impact knocks her unconscious. When she surfaces, her son is gone. At 0215, the last B-29 crosses back over the coast. 14 planes are missing, most lost to the firestorm's updraft, flipping them like toys. The rest head south, crews silent, staring at their hands as if expecting to see blood. Behind them, Tokyo burns for 6 more hours. When the sun finally rises at 0603, the city is unrecognizable. 16 square miles, an area larger than Manhattan, have been erased. Where neighborhoods once stood, there is only gray ash and twisted iron. The smoke column climbs so high it casts a shadow across half of Honshu. The official death toll will never be known. The Tokyo Metropolitan Police will settle on 97,000. American estimates will climb past 130,000. The real number is almost certainly higher. And in the Imperial Palace, Emperor Hirohito stands on the roof of the Chiyoda Palace, wrapped in a heavy overcoat, staring east. The horizon is still glowing. Ash drifts across the garden like black snow. For the first time in his reign, the living god whispers a single word: horrible. The laughter is over. March 10th, 1945, 10 a.m. Imperial Palace, Tokyo. Emperor Hirohito has not moved from the palace roof since dawn. A thin layer of human ash covers the shoulders of his military greatcoat like grey dandruff. In the distance, Hundreds of columns of smoke still rise, merging into a single funeral shroud that blocks the sun. His chief aide-de-camp, Vice Admiral Shigeru Yokoyama, approaches with a lacquered box containing the daily intelligence summary. The admiral's uniform is immaculate, but his face is the color of old parchment. Hirohito does not turn. "Tell me," he says, voice barely audible over the wind. Yokoyama opens the box with shaking hands. Inside is a single sheet of rice paper. Between 83,000 and 130,000 subjects are confirmed dead, Majesty. Another 40,000 are missing. 1 million are homeless. The wards of Honjo, Fukagawa, and Asakusa no longer exist. The Emperor closes his eyes. For a long moment, the only sound is the wind snapping the imperial standard overhead. Then, so quietly that Yokoyama must lean forward to hear. Is this what it means to be invincible? That afternoon, in the charred ruins of the Ministry of War in Ichigaya, what is left of the Army High Command meets in a half-collapsed conference room. The windows are gone. Snow-like ash drifts across the table. General Yoshijiro Umezu, chief of the Army General Staff, slams a charred fragment of an M69 canister onto the polished wood. He says, voice trembling with rage, "Is what the Americans used. Napalm. They burned our civilians like insects." Across the table, Colonel Takeo Yasuda, the same officer who once laughed at the B-29 photographs, stares at the blackened metal. His left hand is wrapped in bandages. He was caught in the open near Kanda when the firestorm hit. His wife and 2 daughters did not make it out. No one laughs now. Someone asks the question no one wants to ask. What do we do about LeMay? The answer comes from an unexpected voice. Air Defense Commander General Seiji Kawabe stands, soot streaking his face like war paint. "We do nothing," he says flatly. "We have no night fighters worth the name. Our radar is blind below 5,000 meters. Our anti-aircraft ammunition is almost gone. The Americans can come again tonight, tomorrow night, every night, and there is nothing we can do to stop them." Silence. Then Umezu speaks the words that will doom the empire. "Then we fight on the ground. We bleed them on every beach, in every cave, on every mountain. We make the invasion cost so much that even the Americans will tire of it." No one argues. There is nothing left to argue with. March 25th, 1945. Northfield, Guam. Curtis LeMay stands on the hardstand, watching another armada load up. Tonight, it is Nagoya's turn. Tomorrow, Osaka. The night after, Kobe. The B-29s no longer even pretend to carry guns. They are flying matches now, nothing more. A war correspondent asks the general how he sleeps at night. LeMay lights another cigar. "I sleep fine," he says. "I did my crying about this war a long time ago." He does not tell the reporter about the letter folded in his breast pocket. It is from a B-29 pilot who flew the Tokyo mission. The last line reads, "General, I keep seeing that little girl on the bridge. She was waving at us, waving like she thought we were there to save her." LeMay has read the letter 17 times. He will never answer it. April 1st, 1945. A small shrine on the edge of what used to be Honjo Ward. A single charred torii gate still stands. Beneath it, survivors have begun leaving offerings. A child's wooden clog, a melted sake bottle, a child's school satchel with a name tag still legible, Michiko. Every day, more objects appear. Every day, the pile grows. Cabinets by May. The fire raids have burned out 58 square miles of Japan's 6 largest cities. Over 400,000 civilians are dead. 8 million are homeless. Rice distribution has collapsed. Typhus is spreading. And still the imperial conferences drag on. Still the army insists the decisive battle on the homeland will turn the tide. On June the 18th, Emperor Hirohito summons his senior advisors to the imperial bunker beneath the palace. For the first time, he overrules them. "I wish to hear proposals for ending the war," he says. The room goes still. Outside, somewhere in the ruins, a temple bell tolls once and is silent. In the Marianas, Curtis LeMay receives new orders. He is to prepare 2 specially modified B-29s for a different kind of mission. Something that will make the fire raids look gentle by comparison. He looks at the target folder marked Hiroshima and Nagasaki, then at the calendar. August, he thinks. Maybe August. But that is another story. For now, in the ashes of Tokyo, the laughter has turned to silence. And in that silence, the empire begins, finally, to die. End.